Hello and welcome back to Humans and Society. This video focuses on the topic Pantayong Pananaw under the subject Disciplines and Ideas in the Social Sciences. Pantayong Pananaw emerged as a we perspective of history, although it encompasses a whole realm of worldview in Philippine history and historiography. It steered the direction of Philippine historiography towards bagong kasaysayan or new history, a fusion of the ancient definition of kasaysayan and the scientific tradition of history. Pantayong Pananaw is a cultural discourse, an interchange of ideas on culture. Pantayong Pananaw is a Filipino talking to a fellow Filipino about their own experiences as Filipinos, using Filipino as the language of communication. Let us look at the historical context of Pantayong Pananaw. The first method that Filipinos used to preserve and present history is called oral tradition. This was used during pre-colonial times. In ancient times, although the natives know the system of writing known as baybayin, there is no written history. Their history was in the form of oral tradition such as legends, epics, songs, myths, folklores, and riddles. The babaylan, or female spiritual leader, was the keeper of the oral tradition, with the duty of transmitting it to the future generations. The worldview can be described as cyclical, meaning they saw important events and phenomena as a cycle, like day and night, planting and harvesting, summer and rainy season, and birth and death. Historia was used during the Spanish colonial period as a way to present and preserve history. The Spaniards introduced the concept of historia when it colonized the Philippines. This is the writing of historical concepts chronologically in an objective manner. They proceeded to write the history of the Philippines in the Spanish chronicles of Antonio Pigafetta, Manuel de Luarca, Pedro Chirino, Antonio de Morga, and Francisco Alsina. It was written in Spanish and used their own perspective in analyzing Philippine society. History was divided into the pre-colonial and colonial periods, with the earlier era called the Dark Times and their era called the Light. Filipinos were considered backward and savage, and that we only became civilized because of them. Through Historia arose the three perspectives of presenting history: Pansila, Pangkayo, and Pangkami. From the 16th to 19th centuries, the Spaniards talked about Filipinos amongst themselves, called Pangsilang Pananaw, and talked to us about it, Pangkayong Pananaw, using their own language. The Ilustrados, or Enlightened Ones, led by Jose Rizal, Marcelo H. del Pilar, and Graciano Lopez Haina, formulate a view of Philippine history that is divided into three parts: pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial, or light, darkness, and light. In this view, they agreed that we had a high level of civilization before the Spaniards came. The civilization stagnated during colonization, and life will be better if reforms are granted to the Philippines as a province of Spain. This tripatriate view of Philippine history was continued by most historians over the next decades, who chose to write in English and use foreign concepts in writing Philippine history. The Tadhana series is an encyclopedia of Philippine history. A group of scholars from University of the Philippines in Diliman was tasked to write the project under the authorship of President Ferdinand Marcos. This is part of the government propaganda under martial rule, to come up with its own version of Philippine history, to control not only politics and society, but also the intellectual life of the Filipinos. The Communist Party came up with its own version of Philippine history, entitled The Philippines, a Past Revisited, by Renato Constantino. It utilized a Marxist structural analysis in the examination and interpretation of Philippine history. In this book, the Western imperialism is seen as the culprit behind the Filipino people's social ills, and the government's role in serving the imperialist interests further aggravates the situation. The three ways to study history are through chronology, positivist, and interpretive methods. Chronology is interested in producing a timeline, which is simply putting the events together in their proper order according to year. The positivist method is interested in finding the documents and artifacts that prove that these historical events actually happened. The interpretive method is interested in finding the meaning behind the events and the effects that it had on the people. Before we continue, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications. Comment below for topics you would like to be discussed in future videos. A fourth perspective emerged out of the Filipinos' attempt to write our own history. This is called Pantayong Pananaw. Pantayong Pananaw chose to focus on indigenous concepts and Philippine history that would help us understand ourselves. Kasaysayan is the key concept in Pantayong Pananaw. The relevance or importance of events is given emphasis instead of the chronology of events. The essence of Pantayong Pananaw is the internal interconnections of characteristics, values, knowledge, wisdom, aims, traditions, behaviors, and experiences of the Filipino culture, expressed through the use of Filipino language. Kasaysayan means salaysay na may saysay para sa isang grupo ng mga tao. Bagong kasaysayan is a fusion of the ancient definition of kasaysayan and the scientific tradition of historia. In Bagong Kasaysayan, historians focus on non-traditional themes. Written documents, artifacts, fossils, remains, language, and architecture are used as primary sources of knowledge. Indigenous perspective serves as the historian's framework in analyzing facts and propagating nationalistic consciousness. The national language is considered beneficial since it would help in the promotion of a Filipino perspective in writing history. The key elements of Bagong Kasaysayan are pook, or location and place, paninindigan, also known as principled commitment, and bayan, or the country. Jesus Salazar is considered the father of Pantayong Pananaw. He obtained a degree in Bachelor of Arts in History, summa cum laude, from the University of the Philippines, and doctorate at Ethnology with highest honors from Sorbonne University de Paris, France. He taught in University of the Philippines and De La Salle University, and served as visiting professor in École des Hautes Études and Sciences Sociales in France, Australian National University, and Universitat Bremen in Germany. Salazar is the co-founder of Pambansang Samahan sa Psikolohiyang Pilipino, or PSSP, Bahay Saliksikan sa Kasaysayan, also known as BAKAS, and Asosasyon ng mga Dalubhasa, May Hilig at Interes sa Kasaysayan ng Pilipinas, or ADHICA ng Pilipinas. He served as chairperson of the UP Department of History and Dean of the College of Social Sciences and Philosophy. He authored, edited, and translated numerous books and monographs. He is a recipient of numerous awards as recognition to his contributions in the academe and Philippine society. Pantayong Pananaw has several strengths and weaknesses. Its strengths include the following. Pantayong Pananaw is the first framework advocating a nationalist perspective, primarily by the use of Filipino as the language of discourse. It bridges the gap between the elite and the masses, or the great cultural divide, as Salazar coined. Pantayong Pananaw is credited as ushering Philippine historiography into a new era, which is bagong kasaysayan, a Filipino perspective of studying our own past. It is the most advanced in terms of theory and most productive in terms of research output within the Filipino social science perspectives. However, it also has several criticisms. Pantayong Pananaw is a language-based framework, but some critics would argue that the use of the national language is not the only consideration in the foundation of nationalist history. Filipino language, which is largely Tagalog-based, marginalizes the rest of the languages in the Philippines. It rejects concepts that do not originate from the Philippines as automatically foreign or Western, but foreign concepts can still be appropriated and indigenized to suit the local context. At present, Pantayong Pananaw plays an important role as a Filipino social science perspective. It is the most theoretically sophisticated expression of Filipino social science viewpoint that offers practical option to Western positivist social science. It is a recognized perspective in Philippine historiography that has made its presence felt outside the university. The ideas discussed in this video are based on the content standards of the Department of Education. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson.